Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking the profound roadmap of dua, or supplication, based on some absolutely fascinating insights from Sheikh Hamad al-Atiq. Have you ever felt like your prayers are just hollow words bouncing right off the ceiling? Or maybe you felt totally exhausted by a life situation and honestly just too flawed to even ask for a way out? If so, you are exactly in the right place. We're going way beyond the basic concept of just asking for things. Instead, we're mapping out an incredibly detailed structural and spiritual roadmap designed to completely transform how you communicate with the divine. We're going to explore what actually makes a prayer effective, the psychological barriers that trip us up, and the specific etiquettes that elevate our words. So let's kick things off with a question that might challenge how you fundamentally view your daily struggles. What stands between you and your biggest dream? When most of us get asked this, we instantly start listing off worldly barriers, right? We stress over our bank accounts, convinced it's a lack of money. We blame bad timing, a missed promotion, the economy, or maybe a really difficult relationship that's dragging us down. We spend years, sometimes our whole lives, trying to forcibly smash through these physical walls, totally convinced that the material world is the only thing dictating our success or failure. But hold on to that thought, because the source material offers a radically different, totally paradigm-shifting answer to that exact question. Nothing stands between us and our dreams except an answered prayer. Just let the sheer weight of that statement sink in for a second. It completely reframes our entire perspective. It takes prayer from this passive coping mechanism, something you just do to feel a little bit better, and elevates it into an active, incredibly powerful tool that shapes reality. According to Sheikh Hamad, whether you want something monumental in this worldly life or you're seeking something profound for the hereafter, the only true distance between you and that reality is an answered dua. It is literally the ultimate key. To really master this, we're going to follow a 5-part roadmap today. 1. The heart of worship. 2. Preparing the inner soul. 3. The practical steps. 4. The power of persistence. And 5. Why answers get delayed. Starting right off with Section 1, the heart of worship. You see, dua is way, way more than just a quick wish list you mumble at the end of the day. It's actually recognized as the absolute essence of worship itself. Why? Because it actively intertwines your soul's absolute trust with your tongue's plea. You're taking the physical act of raising your hands and speaking your needs, and you're fusing that action with deep internal convictions. It's that precise moment where you fundamentally acknowledge exactly who you are, a being in need, and exactly who God is, the ultimate provider, the capable, the absolute authority over whatever it is you're asking for. It completely strips away the illusion of our own independence. Which brings us to Section 2, preparing the inner soul. Before we even utter a single word, our heart needs to be in the right state. And this highlights a profound psychological block that almost everyone faces. How many times have you thought to yourself, man, I've messed up too much, I've committed too many sins, I've missed prayers, I am way too flawed to ask God for any favors right now? We often just stop praying out of shame. But Sheikh Hamad points out an incredible, striking irony here to dismantle that guilt. Think about Iblis, the devil, literally the ultimate rebel, the entity who directly defied God. When he was cast out, he asked God for a massive favor, a delay until the day of judgment. And in his infinite capacity, God answered that prayer. If the Almighty answered the prayer of the ultimate rebel, how could a sincere, struggling human being ever feel they're too sinful or too far gone to ask for help? The feeling of I'm too ashamed to pray is actually a trap. You should feel shame when committing a wrong, for sure, but absolutely never when you are turning back to ask for help. Once you push past that toxic shame, you have to tap into a state called iftigar, which translates to absolute desperation and spiritual poverty before God. It's the stark realization that you have absolutely nothing without him. The source gives a truly beautiful example of Prophet Musa, or Moses. Imagine his situation. He's fleeing Egypt, utterly terrified, with a bounty on his head, exhausted and literally starving. He helps 2 women water their flocks, then retreats to the shade of a tree. In that moment, he strips away all his ego and shows absolute iftigar, praying, "My Lord, I am in absolute need of whatever good you send me." Because of that profound, raw desperation, that admission of total poverty, the doors swung wide open. He was almost immediately granted safety, a steady job, and a family. When you declare your absolute poverty to the ultimate provider, the response is immense. All right, moving on to Section 3, the practical steps. Once our heart is set in that state of poverty, how do we actually structure this conversation to maximize its impact? Well, you wouldn't just barge into a king's court and immediately start shouting out your demands, right? You follow a protocol. Step 1, start by praising God. Acknowledge his immense greatness and power. Step 2, send blessings upon the prophet. Step 3, acknowledge your own shortcomings and seek forgiveness. This essentially clears the slate between you and your creator. And only then, step 4, state your specific need. This formula creates a beautifully respectful, humble, and deeply powerful dialogue. To really supercharge those steps, there are a few physical and verbal etiquettes to keep in mind. First, try to be in a state of purity, or wudu. Next, raise your hands. This is absolutely crucial. The source notes that God is actually shy to let his servants' raised hands fall empty. Linger on that beautiful thought for a second. The divine responds to that vulnerability. Also, avoid forcing complex, overly scripted rhyming words. We often treat prayer like we're performing in a poetry contest. You aren't. You're pouring out your raw heart, so just speak sincerely in your own words. Lastly, use divine names that perfectly match your specific request. If you are desperate for provision or money, call upon Ar-Razak, the provider. Seeking healing from a physical or emotional wound, call upon Ash-Shafi, the healer. Tailor your conversation. That takes us right into section 4, the power of persistence. Now, what happens when we follow all the steps? Our heart is totally in the right place, but the answer doesn't arrive immediately. Think of making a dua exactly like planting a seed in the ground. In our modern world, we kind of want Amazon Prime delivery speeds for our spiritual requests. We expect to ask on a Tuesday and have our miracle delivered by Thursday. But imagine putting a seed in the soil, watering it for 2 days, and then storming off in complete frustration because there's no giant oak tree yet. That's exactly how we often treat our prayers. True persistence means nurturing your request continuously, without dictating a strict timeline to the Creator. You water it with faith, day in and day out, trusting that massive growth is happening beneath the surface where you can't even see it yet. 18. Just let that number hang in the air for a second. 18 years. That represents the length of time Prophet Ayub, or Job, patiently prayed through his devastating illness, the loss of his immense wealth, and the tragic loss of his family. 18 years of continuous prayer, without ever losing hope, without ever getting angry, and without dictating a deadline to God. He maintained his polite desperation, simply stating his severe affliction and calling upon God's infinite mercy, until the ultimate relief finally came. True persistence isn't just about repetition. It's about an enduring, unshakable trust. And this naturally leads to our final part, Section 5, Why Answers Get Delayed. Let's troubleshoot the ultimate friction point, the wait. Why does the Almighty, who can do literally anything in an instant, choose to make us wait? It's incredibly frustrating. But a delay is not a denial, nor is it necessarily a punishment. It's often a divine feature, not a bug. Sometimes it's deliberately designed to increase your overall worship. Think about how much more intensely and sincerely students pray during exam season, right? God wants that closeness from you. Other times, it's a gentle reminder of your inherent human weakness, designed to keep your ego completely in check so you don't become arrogant. And highly importantly, a closed door forces you to look inward and ask, are there toxic habits I need to resolve? Is there illicit or harmful income in my life blocking my progress? The delay is actually a brilliant mechanism for your own spiritual purification, preparing you to properly receive the gift when it finally arrives. There's this brilliant quote from Umar ibn al-Khattab that completely flips the script and tells us everything we need to know about the ideal mindset. He famously said he doesn't worry about the answer. He worries about being able to make the prayer itself. Now, why would he say that? Because the inspiration to ask is actually the first half of the answer. The very fact that you feel the sudden urge to pray, that you're guided to raise your hands in a quiet moment, means God intends to give you something beautiful. He wouldn't guide your heart to ask if he didn't want to respond. Being granted the conversation is a massive, immense gift in and of itself. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one big, profound thought to chew on. Have you been focusing so intensely on the physical answer, the new job, the money, the relief from pain, that you've completely forgotten the immense privilege of the conversation itself? You have been granted VIP access. The next time you raise your hands, remember that you are speaking directly to the creator of the entire cosmos, and he is actively listening to you. Bring your desperation, follow the steps, plant your seed, and trust the perfect timing. Thanks for joining me, and I hope this deeply transforms your next conversation with the divine.